Okay, quick music disclaimer here. I do not own the rights to this music, which belongs to the rightful owner, who is the intoxicating mind of Dr. Frankenstein. So he made my intro and my outro, and I hope you guys enjoy. Check them out on Spotify and YouTube, and no copyright infringement is intended. Have a good day.
A clear choice of good versus evil, of right versus wrong.
Twisted Tales.
Welcome back to Twisted Tales, folks. Hope everybody's all good here. Hope you had a good weekend. How's everybody doing anyway? Y'all good or what? I hope you guys are. Now, I was curious as to what you guys thought of my last episode there for Kenley Matheson. Pretty informative, I guess. I tried not to follow the documentary too much, but I mean, there is websites, articles, and everything that I went off of too, and I was just curious. Toss a vote up on that. Let me know what you guys thought. So, my next tale here, I guess we'll go into a little bit of Russian folklore here. I mean, why not, right? Something to do. So, my first little tale is going to be of Slavic folklore, and it's going to surround the Baba Yaga. So, the Baba Yaga is an ogress who steals, cooks, and eats her victims. Very favorable to little children. So, she lives in a magical hut, and she stays there with two sisters. They normally visit from time to time or whatever, right? So, a cool little thing here, the hut is actually built on 4 tall chicken legs. So it's like a magical hut, right? So it can relocate if ever stumbled upon or whatever, right? So it can move around rather quickly due to this. The ogre-like woman can often be spotted in her hut, actually just draped over the stove, cutting up her victims and cooking them. So she does venture out time to time, but she's awfully hard to spot because she covers her tracks with the sweep of a broom. So this is how she covers up her trace of existence. Now, she normally leaves in the morning and then returns in the evening. Now, it's said here that she can control black geese, like totally like flocks of those guys. So they circle around the town in search of children. So then they'll swoop down, they'll take the child, and then they'll deliver her back to the ogre. Now, most of her folklore surrounds like traveling through the air in a giant like mortar and pestle. So this is like an ancient device here used for milling and pounding up like stuff into powder or paste for potions. Now, the whole like surrounding of this residence too is topped with skulls to heed the warning to passerbyers that she devours her victims. There's also like other languages and stuff like Polish, for instance. It's called the Baba Yaga, and in Czech and Slavic it's the Chabiba. So just like other couple ways that she's known by, I guess, here. Because some describe her as having, like, kind of a hooked nose, long teeth, huge bony legs, kind of like a skeleton. And if one ever stumbles upon her place of residence that's, like, hidden deep in the woods, the colossal, like, bird legs will kind of, like, take off. So its windows are actually its eyes, and the lock is a mouth with teeth. So it's all like magically set up. It's kind of cool, right? So it's like kind of black magic kind of shit. Animals do gather nearby too, like hungry dogs mostly. There's the wicked black geese. There's some swans, black cats. They actually guard the outside of the mysterious place so they don't let anybody enter. Other tales here of folklore that surround her, like she's known as the goddess of life, rebirth, and time. So she leads souls into the afterlife, serving as like a guardian between the worlds of the living and the dead. And she's also like all-seeing and all-knowing. So she's not just known as evil, because like she does dabble in all this black magic shit. It's just more so like a little myth to this. Like, it's said here that when a hero is slain with like a great sword or by fire, he is sprayed with the water of death by her. And then instantly it cures all the wounds, and then they're bathed in like water that creates rebirth. So pretty much like the whole characteristics of this witch-like ogre creature. Pretty cool though. Now the ogre's house here is also interpreted as like a symbol of like ritualism. So this relates to like the dead and their burials. So the revolving house that she's in here, it's also surrounded by 12 posts. So this represents the passage of time through the 12 months of the year. Now in some tales here, like it's kind of cool that she's known as like kind of a creature that either helps bring back the dead or ones that have passed in battle, things like that, right? She's also known as like a creature that's neither divine nor human, a goddess to some, and a destructor to others. So I mean, it's kind of cool to see like the villainy in the tales and like some of the good and stuff like that, because it revolves around magic, and magic helps people, I guess, right? It's just very cool that it spans in different stories. Like, there's a tale here about a man and wife that had 2 kids, a boy and a girl. Now the parents told the kids to stay inside. Now one day they were going to the market just to go grab a few things, and there were black geese that were noticed flying around the area. So the parents, hearing like the local folklore and shit, they told the kids not to go outside because of the geese that snatch up children. So the parents left for the market, and the 2 stayed inside. They listened to their parents, for the time being anyway. Now the 2 kids got bored, and they noticed other children playing outside. So she took her brother, she put him down in the grass, and then joined in him with the kids playing. So that's what kids do, right? Like, they forget about like their brother or other siblings. They go and join in the fun, right? She soon noticed a flock of black geese flying down, and they snatched up her brother and carried him away. She wasn't able to get to him in time, so she ran home. She didn't see him anywhere, and then she remembered like the whole Baba Yaga thing and how she feasts on children. So what does she do? She ran to the forest. Now she ran across all these fields, brooks, and then she came to a little pond, and she saw a fish flopping out of water. He was crying out her name, and he asked for help. So she picked him up quickly, placed him in the water, gave it no thought, and then she took off. She traveled to a nearby grove here, and the fish swam up alongside her, and he gave her a little shell for helping, and he said, this will help you along your way. So once she got up a little further, she noticed a squirrel caught in a trap. So she released and freed this guy, so his leg was caught in a trap. So she talked to this little squirrel a moment. He gave her a walnut, said the same thing, if you're ever in danger, throw it over your shoulder, and good things will happen, or whatever, right? The young girl put it in her pocket, and then she carried on. She went on a little ways, and then she saw a field mouse trying to move a rock, but to her, it was just like a pebble, so she bent down, she picked it up, and the little mouse was able to get into his home. So he ended up gifting her the pebble. So she put it in her pocket, ran down a little further, and then she got into a dark forest area. So she crept through, these are really dark parts that the sunshine didn't even reach. So she came to a clearing and stumbled upon the Baba Yaga's hut. Now the long legs of the hut were sitting there, the geese were perched on top of the roof, and there was a kettle right above the fire. So the Baba Yaga was inside, having a quick nap here. She seen her brother close by, playing with some random bones and stuff. I mean, that's really eerie in itself, right? So she quietly snuck in there, grabbed her brother, and then made a dash for the forest. Now the black geese had noticed this, so they started clapping their wings and began to make a bunch of noise. So this ended up waking up the sleeping creature inside, and then she began to chase them right out of the hut. She chased them right down into the woods, and she used her long legs to quickly gain speed and catch up to them both. So the young girl then remembered what the fish had told her, so she took out the shawl from her pocket and threw it over her shoulder. So as soon as it hit the ground, a lake appeared directly behind them, and it was too big for the creature to go around. So she ended up squatting down, and she began to drink the water from the entire lake, and then she carried on, chasing the 2 kids. So the chase continued on. The girl reached into her pocket, and then tossed out the walnut that she was given by the squirrel. So there was a grove of trees that quickly grew up, and then these were all very close together, so it blocked the Yaga's path. So the creature used her sharp teeth to chew up the entire grove of trees that had just appeared. So she quickly caught up to the children yet again, and then she was only slightly behind them. Now her bony arms were almost within reach of the children, so she threw the tiny pebble behind her shoulder, and a large mountain had appeared. So this grew so tall that there was nothing the Baba Yaga could do about it. She couldn't climb over such a thing, right? She couldn't eat it with her teeth. She couldn't drink it. So she was all just caught up on these big mountains. Not being able to climb her way back up, she ended up just climbing back down to the forest, making threats of revenge to the kids. So the two kids had carried on. They reached their home safe and sound, and their parents got back from their trip to the market. So a pretty cool little story there too. I mean, even in other like Slavic folklore, like there's stories of Koshi. Now this guy's like the immortal or the deathless, as he's dubbed. So these go back to like the 12th century. This is about an evil, immortal man who menaces like women with his magic and stuff like that. So this kind of revolves around a guy with 3 sisters. So he fights this guy named Ivan. So he's always in like a constant battle with Koshi. So Ivan here has 3 sisters that ended up like marrying wizards. So Ivan had left to go track down his sisters, and he met a princess named Myra Morovna. Now she was like this warrior princess. So the two get married, and then she headed off for battle. Now upon leaving, she tells Ivan not to open the door to the dungeon of the castle. Now upon her absence, he was like, whatever, she's going off to battle. So Ivan, just out of curiosity, opened up the dungeon, and to his surprise, who does he see? His nemesis, Koshi, chained up down there. So he asks him, like, for something to drink, and he's like, okay. So Ivan brings it to him. Afterwards, this had let him, like, gain some of his energy back, because he was, like, dehydrated or whatever. So his powers return, and he breaks out of the chains, and then he disappears. Now, not long after this, word reaches Ivan that his wife Myra was now like captured by this guy, so he had set out to go save her. So after pursuing their trail for some time, Ivan catches up to his wife and Koshi, and then he demands that he let her go. So a big fight breaks out, and Ivan is killed. He's stuffed into a fucking barrel, and then he's thrown into the sea. And that's it. So, I mean, like, kind of weird. But remember, folks, those wizards that his sisters had married, they all kind of got together, they heard of the news, and they revived him. Upon his resurrection from death, the wizards give advice and wisdom to Ivan. They tell him of Koshi's magical horse that he uses in battle, and that how it's like the fastest in the lands. So they tell him to go to the Baba Yaga to get a magical horse to be able to defeat Koshi's horse. So he meets up with the Baba Yaga, who then puts him through a series of tests. This is a way for Ivan to prove that he's worthy of obtaining the magical steed. So he passes the course with flying carpets, he obtains the horse, and then shows up on Koshi's doorstep, kills him, and then burns his body. He then chills with his wife Myra, he, saves her, whatever, right? And then they celebrate his victory, rejoining his sisters and the wizard husbands. So this is like cool little tales here that I like finding here, folks. And next up, we'll talk about the V-I-Y, popular legend of a Slavic demonic male creature. So his body and face is said to be like made of metal. He has thick tree roots, kind of like a weird feature here that he's surrounded with. He has extremely long eyelids and lashes that he cannot lift up by himself. So he requires help of like lesser demons and ghouls to like lift up his like big, long, snake-like eyelids and shit. So this guy's gaze here is said to possess like such powers that are capable of inflicting fear, charm. Depends on the situation, right? So this guy was actually written about in 1835 by a Russian-Ukrainian named Nikolai Gogol, Gogol. So this was like a bunch of like short story collections that was actually called Miro God. That was the whole like short story things that he was in. So this is known as like the god of the underworld in Slavic mythology. So the author here, like this dude, he was born March 31st, 1809, and he passed on March 4th, 1852. Now he wrote mostly like Ukrainian upbringing, cultures, shit like that for his folklore, right? Now, example of his works is Diary of a Madman. This is about a government clerk who descends into madness and insanity. I mean, pretty cool, right up my alley anyway. So, I mean, check that out if you ever get the chance. So, the V is the Russian name given to the chief of gnomes. So, once someone raises his long eyelids, he can see everything, and you're unable to hide from his gaze. So, his gaze is said here to have the power to kill. And the V was the son of Chernobog. Now, he was the goddess of evil. And Marina, that's the mother of him, she's the goddess of death. Now, Marina was a powerful goddess who can kill anyone, including gods, while she herself stays immortal. So dying and like regenerating herself over time, like whatever, right? Cool. Now, Chernobog here can transform into like a multi-headed dragon, even transform like certain amounts of human souls into monsters or vampires, any other such creature. So like if you have a soul that's unhappy, evil, or lonely, I guess we'll turn into monsters, folks. Now the father here, Chernobog, like his name means black god. This is in Old Slavic. Now he's a dark, shadowy creature here. He has glowing red eyes, horns, so pretty shadowy, whatever. Now in some cultures, he's not really considered evil or anything. He's just one hell of a force that everyone respects. Now in Ukrainian legend here, the V lives in a cave where there's like no light. He's actually like kind of covered in wool, kind of like fur or whatever, right? They also have like tales here that the demons, like they have pitchforks that they stick into the ground, and then these are used to help him keep his eyelids up as he searches around, because he actually can't see anything by himself until his eyelids are lifted up. And like I said, nothing can escape his gaze. Like he'll command his followers of like evil spirits to go do his bidding and shit. So like they'll go burn like towns and villages to rubble, stuff like that. Even nightmares that happen while we sleep, at one point they were actually considered to be a message from the V, as he would send visions and other ghosts inside you. And there was a church here at one time. People heard a wolf howling in the distance. There was heavy footsteps heard thudding towards the church. Now, the creature's eyelids here were dragging on the ground, and he had a face made of iron. So, I mean, pretty crazy thing to come see, right? So the creature was now face to face with a random philosopher at the church. So his eyelids were raised, and he stared at the philosopher. So the philosopher's inner voice said, I should look away, right? I might look into this guy's eyes, something's going to happen. But he couldn't do that. He instantly was locked on and caught up in that guy's eyes. So this philosopher couldn't resist this guy's gaze. So the creature's iron hand had risen up, and the V howled, there he is. And all the creatures around the V had rushed around this guy. So they surrounded him, they just kept going around him and around him. And then his lifeless body had soon fell to the ground. So the ghosts that surrounded him traveled back to the V, and they scared this guy to death. So there's some tales here, that say this guy's gaze has the power to remove the effects of like amulets or other destructive spells that can be cast upon him. So he's very kinda, well, I guess he can just deflect any other evilness or whatever that they try to fucking put on him, right? And even his eyes, the way he does this, he'll sink into the ground, so that kind of gives him power to go into the world of the dead. So this gives him the power so people won't look away from his eyes when they're in place. So all of this power comes from that world. And his throne is actually known to be located inside of the earth. Because, this world here that he goes down into, he thinks that he'll be rewarded for all his doings on earth. His revenge on people who are, dishonest, that treat people unfairly. And nothing wicked that you have done can escape his sight. So, you can try to bargain with this guy or anything like that, but you'll never be forgiven for the evil deeds that you've done. So he just kind of feeds off that, right? And a creature with the power to control like all dark incarcerations, like all the elements, everything, like he's just a total sight to see here, folks. Next up, we'll talk about the Liko. So this is an embodiment of evil and misfortune, depicted as an old skinny woman in black with only one eye. So she's known to be like in fairy tales, whatever, and the word Liko is a word for trouble, so that's the definition of it. And its appearance here was known as the Harbinger of Death, and this story about her was told to kids to get them to behave or whatever, or kids that did bad things, so they try to set them straight. Now the tales depicted here sometimes give valuable lessons to those involved. Now the one-eyed creature here is very distinct, and it's obviously because it has one eye, I guess. It's like a Cyclops version in the Greek mythology or whatever. In some cases, the Liko here would cling onto a person's neck, and it would be impossible to get her off. So to do this, like to get the creature to loosen its grip, they'd run into like a body of water or whatever, and they would try to drown it, in turn actually drowning themselves, and the creature just kind of more so wrapped around them. Now, the victims here kind of just are their own victim of their own doing, I guess, because they failed to get the creature to depart, and they ended up drowning. So it's just an easy way to get victims. And she does have other means of killing as well. There's one tale I found here about a blacksmith and a tailor who had teamed up to find and kind of seek out some evil. I mean, it's quite the unlikely duo, I guess, eh? But they ended up reaching the hut of this old hag here, and they had no idea that it was just the Liko creature. So it's kind of a nice little surprise, I guess. So as soon as they walked in the hut, she had threatened the men, and she said that she was going to eat them. So she killed the tailor instantly, and then she ate him, just as she promised. So she prepared to kill the blacksmith here, and he ended up telling her, like, of his profession. So he made an offer up to forge her whatever she wants. So she thought a moment, and then she asked him to forge her a new eye, because she only has one. So he decided on this, and they agreed on it, on one condition, that she allowed herself to be bound. Now the reason for this was because the way the eye needed to be forged, it needed to be like hammered into place. So any sudden movement could result in a mishap. So she agreed. She was bound to the chair and then secured with rope. She had nowhere to go, and then this was a trick played on her by the blacksmith. So he took a red hot fire poker, and then he pierced it right into the one eye of the creature. So the creature began to scream in pain, and she snapped the ropes that bound her. She was just wicked strong, right? So the blacksmith went to go escape. So after like trying to get away, avenge his like dead friend, all this stuff, right? Kind of a way to hold together the seams of justice, if you will, I guess. So he got near the door, and then she broke free, and then the creature had barricaded the door with her powers, and then the two were forced to spend the night together. The next morning, the Liko kind of had sheep on the property or whatever, so she decided to count them one by one, and she let them outside. So this gave the blacksmith an idea, so he threw on a sheepskin coat and then tried to pass himself on as a sheep to gain access to the outside world. So, being blind, she ended up counting the sheep by hand and then let them out into the pasture. So she searched blindly for the blacksmith, feeling around for him, whatever, right? And he had just escaped from the hut. So he got free. He ran into the nearby woods, and then he stumbled upon a tree stump with a golden axe. But, alas, he could not remove it. So it kind of made things even worse. And he could now not even remove the hand that he went to go touch the axe with. So it was just frozen, right onto the axe handle. There was no way to remove his hand. So he heard the creature approaching rather quickly, close enough for him to hear the threats that she's going to eat him. So, without being able to take his hand off the axe, he pulled a knife out from his pocket with the other free hand, and they began to cut his hand off at the wrist. So she rushed over there, and then she was just like really hot on his trail. So he began to barrel through the woods, just trying to stay one step ahead of her. So that valuable lesson here, folks, that we talked about, if the smith hadn't stopped to grab that golden axe, he still would have been further ahead, and he would still have a hand. But from the dealings of greed, he now has one less hand, and a creature is now hot on his trail, and he's just panicking, trying to get ahead for escape. So, I mean, pretty cool stuff, I guess, right? Like, he would have had none of these issues if he would have just left that axe alone, kept on his journey, and that would have been it. And although, like, the creature being closely behind him, like the blinded creature, mind you, she was unable to sniff him out. So he returned to the village, he told the villagers of his tale, and now he has one hand, and the death of his wonderful companion. So, all these little tales kind of give you a little lesson to, try to learn things or whatever, right? But even, like, depictions of, like, the Liko, like, they can vary from, like, she can show up in either male form or, like, a goblin-like form, too. And people started worshipping her, or him, I should say. So, they used to build, like, one-eyed structures, and then they would set them on fire, just to symbolize, like, dispelling of sickness and death. And there's also other variations of, like, the blacksmith's depiction of the story here that has a few endings over the years. There's one here that he had amputated his arm and then got free to spread the word. That's the one that we covered. And there's one where she killed him for lack of him cutting his arm off. And that's pretty much it, folks. So, I hope you guys really enjoyed that one here. And I hope to see you guys very soon here. I will have some more stuff here for you in the works here. So, I'll have a collab with Dark Mysteries here soon. A few viewer requests to go through too. I gotta thumb through some of that. And I gotta try to fit this all in between working a whole bunch. So, I thank you guys for being here, folks. You're all awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed my little shorts on some Russian tales. And I appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning back into Twisted Tales.
Twisted Tales.